Right now, you could probably tell me exactly what's sitting in your wallet. You know your bank balance, almost to the pound. You know what's coming out on payday and what's left at the end of the month. But there's one number most people in Britain are quietly terrified to look at. Not the money in front of you, the money behind you. Your retirement tank. We're told to save. We're auto-enrolled. We tick the box, and then we look away. But almost nobody gives you the honest figure, the one that tells you whether you're standing on solid ground or on a trapdoor. That gauge you keep avoiding. Today, we read it together. No vague encouragement. No, just try your best. The real breakdown, the exact benchmarks you should be hitting at 50, at 55, and at 60. This is the 2026 edition, and some of these numbers have quietly moved against you. Let's start at 50. Your target here is simple. 6 times your annual salary, sitting in your pension. On a £40,000 salary, that's £240,000. That's the checkpoint. Not because it's the finish line, but because it's the earliest point where you can honestly tell whether you're on track or drifting. Think of retirement like a deep sea dive. At 50, you're not in the water yet. You're still on the boat, checking your equipment. Your SIPP, your self-invested personal pension, is your oxygen tank. And here's the moment that matters. You look down at the gauge. If it only shows 5 years of air, you are not ready for a 30-year dive. That isn't a failure, it's information. Because you've still got roughly 15 years on the boat to refill that tank before you ever jump in. And the tool for that refill is salary sacrifice. You redirect a slice of your gross pay straight into the pension before HMRC ever sees it. So you don't just save the money, you save the tax and the national insurance sitting on top of it. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, every pound you push in costs you as little as 60 pence of take-home pay. At 50, that's the single most powerful lever you've got left, while you're still earning at full strength. Now, 55. The target steps up to 7 times your salary, around £280,000 on that same wage. By this age, the path to freedom looks like a dense, wild forest, and if you're doing it right, you should be starting to see sunlight through the trees. But here's the trap. If you're still hacking through the thorns of debt, the mortgage, the credit cards, the loan you keep, meaning to sort, you're burning the energy you need for the open meadow ahead. And in 2026, with people rolling off cheap fixed rates onto far higher ones, those thorns have grown back thicker than they were 5 years ago. So at 55, the goal isn't just a bigger number, it's lightness. Every debt you kill is a branch cleared from your path. A paid-off mortgage doesn't just save you interest, it slashes the income you'll actually need once you stop working, which means your tank doesn't have to be as deep in the first place. Clearing the forest and filling the tank are the same job, done from 2 directions at once. And then 60. This is the big one. Your target is now 8 to 10 times your salary, so somewhere between £320,000 and £400,000. Your whole working life has been a powered flight. For decades, you've been burning fuel, your time, your energy, your vitality, just to climb and hold altitude. Reaching 60 is the moment the pilot finally eases back on the throttle. But you can only do that if you've got enough aerodynamic lift under the wings, and that lift is your compounding growth, to glide safely down to the state pension runway. And that runway has moved. The state pension age is now climbing to 67. So at 60, you're roughly 7 years out from it. Your private pot has to carry you across that entire gap, smoothly, without dropping. If the pot's too small, you lose stall speed, you're forced to draw down too hard, too fast. Especially if the market dips in those first few years, and you hit the ground long before the runway. The whole game at 60 is protecting the glide. Now, here's the part almost nobody warns you about, and in 2026, it's doing quiet, constant damage. Call it the success tax. The income tax thresholds have been frozen. So every time you get an inflationary pay rise in your 50s, a rise that barely keeps up with the cost of living, more of it gets dragged into a higher tax band. You feel richer on paper, but HMRC quietly takes a bigger slice. That's fiscal drag, and it bites hardest exactly when you're trying your best to fill the tank. The pay rise that should be topping up your oxygen gets pruned before it even lands. And it's not just workers. The full new state pension is now £12,548, sitting just £23 under the frozen personal allowance of £12,570. One more triple lock rise, and pensioners start paying tax on the state pension itself. That's how far the drag now reaches, which is precisely why salary sacrifice matters more now than ever. It's one of the few legal ways to lift money up and over it. And most of this gets decided not in some big dramatic moment, but on any random morning, the start of the financial month. You're half awake, the coffee's on, and you glance at a pension figure on your phone. That quiet, ordinary flicker of feeling, that's the one that counts. Because your future vitality isn't built by one heroic decision. It's built by what you choose on the mornings when nobody is watching. Now, if you've got a partner, the maths changes, for the better. You stop staring at two separate tanks and start looking at your combined total oxygen. Here's why that's so powerful. Two full new state pensions, side by side, protected by the triple lock, give you just over £25,000 of guaranteed, inflation-linked income before your private savings do anything at all. That's your scaffolding. But scaffolding isn't a home. Two state pensions hold the structure up. Your private pots are what fit the windows and hang the doors. The comfortable standard for a couple in 2026, the one that covers the holidays, the car, the meals out, sits at £62,700 a year. Take away the scaffolding, and your private pots need to generate around £37,600. At a sustainable 4% withdrawal rate, that means a combined private pot of roughly £940,000. Whether you're deep in the home counties or up in the north, that's the real number hiding behind the word comfortable. But a full tank on a calm day isn't the whole story, because the markets don't stay calm. This is why you never want every single pound locked inside the pension. You want a buffer, roughly 2 years of spending, sitting outside the pension in an ISA. The logic is simple. When markets fall, the worst thing you can do is sell investments to live on. You'd be draining the tank at the exact moment it's cheapest. So instead, you breathe from the buffer. You live off the ISA for a year or two, leave the pension completely alone, and give it time to recover before you go back to drawdown. That buffer is what stops one bad year from becoming a permanent hole in the plan. So what actually moves you from wherever you are right now to where you need to be? One shift. You move from passive enrollment to active architecture. Passive is the default. You are auto-enrolled, you pay the minimum, you never look. It's the autopilot, and autopilot alone will not land most people in a comfortable retirement. Active architecture is the manual override. You check the gauge on purpose. You raise your contributions. You use salary sacrifice to beat the drag. You build the ISA buffer. You plan your drawdown instead of stumbling into it. Same person, same salary, a completely different landing. The number on your gauge at 60 is just the sum of all the mornings you decided to take the controls. So, how much do you actually need? Enough. And enough isn't a status symbol. It isn't a bigger house or a better postcode. In the end, enough is simply the absence of noise. It's the day you realize your compounding lift has finally grown louder than your alarm clock, because you don't need the alarm anymore. That's what these numbers are really measuring, not wealth, freedom. If this video helped, like and hit subscribe. See you in the next one.